Hello, and welcome to today's Advocate Capital webinar. I'm so glad to be here with you. We're going to talk about law firm marketing tips for plaintiff lawyers. My name is Rachel Minyard, and I serve as VP of Marketing at Advocate Capital. And today we have a special guest, William Resigliano. He goes by Bill. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Hi, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Bill has built a robust marketing program at RF Firm. He is the founder and managing partner of RF Injury Law and has obtained multiple seven-figure verdicts and settlements in both New York and New Jersey, and has been named a metro area super lawyer every year since 2013, as well as one of America's top 100 attorneys. Again, Bill, glad to have you here today. Before we get started, we're going to go through a disclaimer. This webinar has been prepared for informational purposes only and is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for tax, legal, or accounting advice. You should consult your own tax, legal, and accounting advisors before taking any actions. Okay, well, let's get started. We're going to start at the foundation, I think, of why you would implement a marketing plan. And Bill said it best when he said, you want to run your law firm like a business because it is one. So Bill, tell us, why is it important to run your personal injury firm like a business?
Well, because that's what it is. So we're all very busy and we get involved in our cases and our files, and we take on this technician mode or this attorney mode where we're very tempted to work on just what's in front of us. We have cases, we have trials, we have motions, depositions. There's all these things that are going on. It's very tempting to push marketing to the side. But I always say we don't manufacture anything, we don't sell anything, we don't build anything. We go out and get cases, we litigate those cases, we resolve them, and that's how we pay our staff, keep the lights on, and hopefully make a profit. Mm-hmm. So I think that you have to run the business like a business, because if you get too caught up in only working on the cases that you have, you're not planning for the future and what's coming down the road. And especially if you want to grow your firm, you have to constantly be looking at where you are, where you want to go, and then come up with a plan to get there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That makes sense. Let's go ahead and talk about the foundation of how one gets started in building a marketing plan for their law firm. And Bill, what would you say that would be?
Well, every year we sit down at the beginning of the year, usually in the months of the preceding year, and we start to decide what we're going to do in terms of marketing. And I think a marketing plan has to be very much like an investment portfolio. It has to cover a lot of different objectives. I also think, again, because we're also caught up in working on our cases and doing the day-to-day, you have to, the number one rule in marketing, in my opinion, especially with a personal injury firm, is you have to make time for marketing. You have to specifically set aside time where you're going to devote your energy just to your marketing efforts. And that should come in the context of the marketing plan that you've come up with at the beginning of the year. I think if you do things willy-nilly, you're not really going to get results. I think you have to have a plan and then devote time to making that plan work. And then you also have to be willing and flexible enough to adjust the plan as you go along. Some things may not work. Some things may be working better than others. And if you're following the plan and devoting time to it, you'll know as you go along what the best course of action is to take and what might be best to not spend your time on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. So the year before then, your firm sits down and you say, okay, what marketing endeavors do we want to take on next year? And you write down those different marketing channels, and then you dedicate time each week to work on those channels?
Yeah, each week I will block out a certain amount of time, and I'll let my staff know I'm going to be working on marketing for 3 hours on Tuesday and another 3 hours from 3 to 6 on Friday. And then I'll put aside that work that I'm doing the rest of the week, and I'll devote my energy and time only to marketing. And I find that you will get a lot done because you avoid all the other distractions. And honestly, it sometimes is a nice diversion from working on the cases. We get so caught up in that. Working on the marketing really is a nice diversion, but you're also investing in the future of your firm as well. So yes, every week I devote a certain amount of time, And you have to be disciplined enough to only work on marketing. So if somebody comes in and wants to talk to me about a case or a motion during marketing time, I won't do it. I'll stick to the marketing time.
Nice. And that takes a lot of discipline. And like you said, though, it's important to have that consistent work on your marketing channels. And, you know, I have to imagine that there are people out there and they've had the thought, okay, I'm going to go after this. We're going to, you know, build a marketing plan and we're going to build out these channels, but then they don't see results as quickly as they hope they would. You know, how quickly can one expect to see results from their marketing efforts?
It really depends. Sometimes you can get lucky and you can catch lightning in a bottle, but really what you're trying to do is build a foundation, just like you're building a house. And you have to start somewhere. And as you build this, you'll see results over time. I think the key thing with marketing is follow up. When you start to do a certain marketing event, or uh, if you're marketing a certain way, you just have to give it time and then follow up with that contact or that event or whatever marketing facility you're trying to work on. You have to just stay at it and keep at it. Now, we keep stats on the marketing that we do, and if some of the efforts are not working, we might switch it up, and if some are, we might devote more time. But it really is all in the follow up. So you build the foundation and you continue to just mine that until you start to see results, which you will.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a saying around here in our marketing team, which is if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And so we very carefully look at analytics as much as we can. Now, some things aren't as trackable as maybe like, you know, an email blast of a UTM code, but we try to look at analytics monthly for all the different channels that we have. And we say, okay, this did really well. If it does well, let's do more of it. And if this didn't do well, maybe let's pull back from that if we've been giving it a shot for 6 months or so. And like you said, it does depend on what it is.
Right.
Some things take longer to see results. Okay, well, good stuff. Let's go ahead and move on to a marketing channel you guys do really well. It's called Implementing Boots on the Ground. It's kind of a referral program. Tell us a bit about your referral program.
So many years ago, I got some really good advice, and the advice I got was, what you're trying to do is you're trying to market and get business from somebody who's not giving you business. There was a couple contacts we were trying to wine and dine and really trying to nurture, but they hadn't sent us any business yet. And this individual said to me, you have resources, contacts that are sending you business. Those are the individuals that you should be spending your time and effort mining and following up with, because they're already sending you business. They like you, they know you, they feel comfortable sending you business. So they encouraged me to spend my time mining and reaching out to the people and the individuals and the entities that were already sending me business. And the way in which I do it is every 30 days, I created what's called the top 20. It could be, if you're just starting out, it could be less, it could be 5 or 10, it could be more, it could be 25, 30, if you're lucky enough to have that many different contacts sending you business. But you come up with your top referral sources. I use 20 as a round number. And you come up with that list, and then you systematically and periodically follow a pattern where you're constantly in contact with those referral sources. And the way that I do it is every 30 days. So let's say for today, I'm going to have a contact with somebody on my top 20 list. I'll have a phone call, I'll have an email, and then 30 days from then, I'll reach out to them again, and I'll diary it to make sure that I do. And then 90 days from the original contact, I'll have an in-person meeting, which I know these days doesn't happen as often as it should, but it's really important, I think, to go and see the person or the individual and sit down with them and talk to them. And when you're having these contacts, I don't think you necessarily have to discuss business either. I think what you want to do is just have a conversation with the referral source, tell them what you're doing, but also ask them what they're up to. Because very often, even if you don't get business from these contacts, you'll find certain tips or things that could help you. You may have a person who is in a different area of practice than you, or has a different business than you, and they found a great marketing tool that you can use, or they may know somebody who they can refer you to that could be a potential source of business down the road. So you're reaching out to them for business, yes, but it's not necessarily has to be at the forefront. You're just having a conversation with them, and you're trying to find out about them. The other thing I do is during these contacts is I'll take notes on certain things that they tell me afterwards. They might have a kid who's graduating from college, or they might like a particular wine, or maybe they have an anniversary coming up, and I'll remember that and take notes on it, and then I'll make a note to reach out to them and say, hey, happy anniversary, or how's your kid doing in school, or send them a little personal note. And it shows that you pay attention to detail, that you listen, you build a relationship with them, and you make it that much more comfortable having them send you their clients or their contacts or their referrals. So I find that, believe it or not, when I reach out to them every 30 days, I can't tell you how many times I'll have somebody say, it's so funny you called me. I just had somebody come in who needed a personal injury attorney, or I was just talking to somebody the other day about this great marketing tip that I think would really benefit your practice. And just reaching out on that periodic basis and following up nurtures that relationship and leads to other business.
And we have a note here, and I think you had said something to this in our call prior to this, which is you want people to know that you need the business.
Yes, very, very important. People see you in social media and online and all your other marketing efforts. They see your website. They call you and they know that you're running around. They see that you're busy and they just assume, oh, Bill's doing great. He doesn't really need any more business. So I think it's very important to tell your referral sources, we want business, we need business. We would encourage you to send us more business. We're trying to grow our firm. We're trying to get more business in. You have to actually ask for more business, because otherwise they may not think that you need it. And if you actually say to them, we would like more business, you've been a great referral source, please continue to think of us, I find that they'll be more apt to send you more business along the way.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, we've got a few more notes here. What about sending handwritten notes?
I'm very old school, so I'm a big believer in this. Yes, I know we're in the digital age, and yes, I know emails and texts are something that we all do, but I really think the power of a personal handwritten note goes a long way. So if I have a client who's referred to me by one of my referral sources, or like I said, even if I know that they have some sort of milestone coming up, I'll send them a handwritten note. Thank you so much for the referral. We really appreciate your business and you thinking of us. Please continue to do so. Or happy birthday. I hope you have a great time in Myrtle Beach, or whatever it might be. I think that, again, it shows that you pay attention, that you pay attention to detail, and that you listen to them when you're having these conversations. And really what you're doing is you're building relationships. That's the best way to get business, is by nurturing and building relationships. And sending a thank you or a personal note, I think, really goes a long way. It shows that you've taken the extra time and effort to not just send an email or a text. It takes a little effort to sit down and write something and then actually put it in the mail.
That's right, it does.
Yeah, I really think people appreciate that. In fact, I remember I was coming back from a business trip, and I had a number of people that I had to send these thank you notes to. And during the flight, it was a relatively short flight, I was writing all of these thank you notes, and on the front was our logo, and inside it said thank you. And as I was getting off the plane, a woman approached me and she said, I have to tell you, I've been watching you. She said, I hope you don't mind. I don't know what you do for a living, but she said, I was so impressed that you were sitting there writing out all these handwritten notes to your clients or whoever you were writing them to. She said, it's really impressive. People just don't do that much anymore. So she noticed it. So I really think it goes a long way, and I think people are very impressed when you do that.
Absolutely. It's a rarity these days. You open your mailbox and it's not bills or ads, but a handwritten note from someone. It really is special. So I think that's a fabulous idea. Okay, well, tell us a bit about a farm team. What is that?
So for anybody who's a baseball fan out there, I'm a Yankees fan. They have a farm team, and that farm team is trying to take their prospects and work on them so that they can come up to the major leagues and play play in the show. A farm team, you have your top 20, but the farm team are those prospects or individuals, entities, contacts that are not sending you business, but you think over time could be a potential source of business for you. So I will, if I go to an event and I meet somebody and they say, we should talk more, or we could do business together, or, let's have a further discussion, I'll put them on my farm team as a prospect who eventually down the road will send me business. And in addition to reaching out to my top 20, I'll also spend some time reaching out to the contacts on my farm team. The farm team sometimes does take a while because these are new people that you are obviously not getting business from, and you have to sort of spend some time with them. But I will devote some energy to that, and over time, hopefully they'll move from the farm team column to the top 20 column.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a wise strategy. Okay, and I think we covered your contact goal at 30 days, every 30 days. Is that right?
Well, yeah, but the other part of that is I reach out to either someone I have 3 contacts a week. So, and again, you have to be religious with this, you have to track it, but you want to reach out to a combination of farm team and top 20 at least 3 times a week. It could be more,
Okay.
but at least 3 times a week, you want to be reaching out to those referral sources so that you're on that constant cycle of every 30 days being in touch with those individuals. I create a spreadsheet and I diary it, and I make sure that I keep it continuous and have that follow-up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it sounds like that organization is really beneficial to you as well. So you're
Very
staying in
much.
contact with them consistently. Love it. Okay, well, let's move on to community. This is something that RF firm does really well, and I like how much you guys invest in those around you. Why is community involvement important for a law firm?
Well, the way that started for us was I'm here in my Manhattan office, and we're in an office building, and I'm sure a lot of the other attorneys can appreciate this. There's days I don't leave my desk. You're just so busy. And there's a real disconnect with the rest of the outside world. So a few years ago that we had some discussions and we decided, what if we opened a satellite office where we were actually in contact with a community, where they could come in and see us, they could ask questions, we'd be a part of the community, and everyone was very much in favor of it. We also have a very heavy Hispanic clientele and have had a lot of success with that demographic and a lot of clients who we represent in that demographic. So we targeted a community in the Bronx, the South Bronx, that we thought would be good to have a satellite office. It was mostly a Hispanic community. There was no other attorneys around. We really thought we could become part of the community. And it was really an incredible experience. We opened a storefront and we tried very much to welcome people into the office. And we found very quickly, it took a little while, but people started to become very comfortable coming in. And sometimes they would just come in to chat. It wasn't even about cases, or we had a very outgoing office manager and they would come in and talk to her. And if there was an attorney there, they might ask about a different area of practice than what we specialized in, but we were accessible to them. And then what we decided to do was have events within the community. We, during the school year, we would have a backpack or a book bag giveaway where we would give kids book bags for school. During Christmas time, we would have toy drives, and it was in a relatively underprivileged neighborhood. So people were really, really grateful for that. And it really, you became part of the community, and it was very, very rewarding. And sure enough, we started to get a lot of business. People really trusted us and were sending us a lot of business. And it was a great experience because we were a part of a community. We knew the community, they knew us, And then once we were in the community, we met more and more people, and we would go to other events. We would be asked to host other events. We were asked to speak at a lot of other community events that were going on within the South Bronx. And it really was a rewarding thing. And I was very, very glad that we were able to do that.
So it sounds like, one might want to find their target audience, identify that, and then participate in events or sponsorships or leagues that are meaningful to them.
Yes. So one of our specialties here is traumatic brain injury. So we will target that population, speak, go to events, and meet people and just tell them who we are. The other thing that we like to do at events, which I think is a really great thing to do, is we'll have some sort of giveaway. We'll have a raffle, and we'll raffle off a television, an iPad, a speaker, and it brings people in because they'll be interested in the raffle. You get a chance to talk to them, but then you're also collecting their information, and you can then reach out to them as you're marketing. And it's very, very hard in a personal injury firm to direct market, because if you're a tax attorney, you can direct market a certain demographic or clientele and get business from them. You can't really do that in a personal injury firm, but it's all top of mind awareness. So if you have a database and you're expanding your database, which we try to do through these events, you can then send them information that will keep you top of mind. You can send them email blasts about results that you get, different practice areas that you are involved in, milestones for the firm. And it's another way to directly market people and stay top of mind.
Excellent. Okay, well, I think we're going to show the audience a picture of RF's mobile office, which I think is just the coolest thing. Tell us a bit about that.
So the pandemic hit us particularly hard, especially in the Bronx. We had that satellite office for quite a while, and during the pandemic, the neighborhood changed quite a bit, and we didn't think it was feasible anymore to keep that office in the location. So we all sort of sat around, and again, it was during the pandemic when we were thinking, well, what's it going to look like when we come out of the pandemic, and what do we want to do about this office? Do we want to move it to another location? How do we want to handle it? And what we ultimately decided to do was, rather than be in one community, because we had such a great experience in that community, what if we had a way to reach other communities, not just in the Bronx, but in the other boroughs of Manhattan? We also practice in New Jersey, in New Jersey as well. And we came up with this idea of having a mobile office on wheels, where we could go to people, because we were figuring once we got through the pandemic, people are going to be less likely to leave their homes and want to come out. They were going to be reluctant to do that. So we thought first we could go to them, and this is a way to do that. But also we can go to different communities and sort of set up shop with our mobile office. And it's been a great way to sort of spread a wider net and go to different communities, different events. We've had the Lawmobile all over New York and New Jersey, and we've had the opportunity to expand our reach, expand our database, and expand the areas where we're meeting people and the communities that we can then serve. So it's been a great opportunity for us to further expand this idea of a satellite office.
Well, awesome.
And the other thing too I'll say about the Lawmobile is, I think that when it comes to marketing in this day and age, you do have to think out of the box. And not everything's going to work. Some things work better than others, but I think you have to try various things and put the effort and the financial resources into trying. We weren't sure how the Lawmobile was going to work, but it's become part of our portfolio of marketing, and I'm glad that we did it. I think that if you're worried about whether something is going to work, then it's not going to happen. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. I think you have to take some chances, and you have to be patient. it took a while for the Lawmobile to develop and for people to get comfortable with it and for us to figure out how to market it. So I encourage people to try different things and then stick with it and see where it goes. You have to be patient with these marketing efforts sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it feels like you're just throwing something against the wall and seeing if it sticks. You know,
Yeah.
you think about it, you plan it out, but there's a certain element of that. So I agree with you, Bill. Okay, let's move on to social media and online presence. Well, I think most people watching are pretty aware that social media profiles are generally important and you want to have a website. But, you know, why would you say, Bill, that it's important to be active on social media and engage with those who are following you?
Well, because it's a digital age. You know, I think about when I started my practice 25 years ago, it was very different. And it was competitive then, but not like it is now. If you're a personal injury attorney, I mean, especially where we are in the market we're in, it is incredibly competitive. And not only are you competing against other law firms, but you're competing against firms that, you know, we handle all of our cases. We litigate all of our cases. There's firms out there that spend all their money on marketing and then farm their cases out. So you're competing against firms that spend all of their money on marketing. And so you have to come up with ways to compete on some level. And one of the ways that you can do that relatively inexpensively is through social media and through your website. I think when it comes to social media, it should be informative, but it also has to be somewhat entertaining in a tasteful way. Because I read a study the other day that the average person loses interest in three seconds. So if you don't grab them like that, they're not going to watch. So I think that your social media pitch or ads have to be personal. I think that people want to see that. I know that the ones that we do that are more personable than others seem to get better traffic. I think they have to be short and they have to get to the point. And I think you have to have an overall theme or mission in the way that you're developing your social media. I think you have to stick to an overall plan or theme and then just let people see what that is. Whether it's, you know, we're great lawyers that get great results, or you can trust us, or we call our clients back, or whatever it may be, you have to stick to that theme whenever you're doing your social media presence.
Absolutely. And I'm going to jump to the next slide here, but something I think that you guys do well and you're well versed in, Bill, is video content creation, which we know is a huge part of social media now. People are consuming stories and reels like crazy, probably more than they're watching TV these days. So what would your recommendations be for someone to create good video content?
Well, if you can afford it and you have it as part of your budget, and I also recommend that in addition to a marketing plan, you do a marketing budget and you break it down in terms of what you're going to spend your money on. If you have the budget, I think it's best to have an outside vendor or third party take care of the videography. They usually are very good at it. If the ones that we use, we generally come up with a story or a theme or an idea of what we want, and then they're very good at developing that for us. And so we sort of work in tandem. But if you don't want to spend the money or you don't have it, you can make really decent quality videos just simply with an iPhone. Or sometimes you can make the video with an iPhone and then hire somebody just to edit it relatively inexpensively. I also think that you don't have to have a high quality video necessarily to get your message across. I think sometimes just doing it on an iPhone and keeping it simple is just as good. But again, I think that you want to have a message, you want to inform, you want to make them entertaining, and you want to make sure that they're short. You want to make your point, get in there, and have people pay attention to it. And I think if you go over, I mean, most of ours are about no more than a minute long. I think if you're going longer than that, people are not going to stay with it. So, and I think it has to be frequent. I think what we'll do is we'll schedule every month. Okay, we're going to do these posts. We plan them out, and then systematically we just roll them out. And then I think what you also want to do is you want to put them out across all platforms. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. And then I also think if you're doing blast emails, you want to make sure that you're sending that content out to your database through blast emails as well. That way you're covering all the bases and you can get as many eyes on it as possible.
That makes sense. When you think about topics that one might cover, what would you recommend there?
Well, certainly you want to talk about your practice areas and inform people. I think it's very important. Some of the things that we overlook as attorneys, we're so used to this stuff, but I talk to my clients and I ask them, what their experiences are. A lot of people are very nervous about coming to an attorney. They're very, very apprehensive. So I think there's a good way to break that down. So some of the things that we'll talk about are free consultations. A lot of people don't know that if you go to a personal injury attorney, you're not charged for the meeting, that we take a percentage. I think that's important. Knowing your rights. But I also think that you don't have to necessarily always do social media posts in your practice area. You could talk about something in another practice area or a legal update that has just recently occurred. Or maybe talk about a strange law that's on the books that people might find interesting. I think that you can get outside of just personal injury and talk about other facets or areas of the law. You could talk in general terms too. What is a deposition? What happens at a deposition? What can I expect if I file a lawsuit? Do I have to go to court? All these things, the more you inform people to lower their apprehension about what they might go through, I think the better. But I also think that if you can give them general concepts of the law, even if it's outside the area of personal injury, I think that that's good to do as well.
Absolutely. Do you have any tips for people who are a little bit nervous about getting on camera? I know that's not everybody's cup of tea.
I don't think you have to necessarily put yourself out there. You don't have to necessarily speak. You could be in the background. A lot of our videos, there'll be a voiceover and you'll see the attorneys or the staff working together or meeting clients or because you're right. I mean, not everybody here is as comfortable as others, being on the video. So I think you can do it a lot of different ways. I don't think you have to necessarily have someone speaking directly to the camera. You can sort of show your office and what you do on a daily basis. And like I said, have a voiceover and sort of do it that way. I think people feel more comfortable doing it that way. And it's just as effective. In fact, in some ways, showing people the way that you interact with your clients, with your staff, what your office is like, again, gives them a feel for who you are and what you are. Because at the end of the day, I think people choose a personal injury attorney based on comfort. Are they comfortable with us? Do they feel secure? Do they feel as though they can trust us and that we're telling them, giving it to them straight? And if they see us in action, I think that's a good way of portraying that.
Yeah, that's a wonderful idea. Okay, well, let's talk a bit more just about branding. You guys have chosen a different way to brand your firm, and tell us a bit about that, Bill.
So my last name is Resigliano, and my first partner, his last name is Filippe. They're long Italian names that no one seems to be able to say. And when Frank and I became partners, we came up with this logo. I don't know if you can see it. I brought some goodies here. We came up with this RF logo. Yeah, just to sort of, take the first letter of our last names. And we started to brand the RF, and we would put it on all kinds of things, cups and pens and bags. And when we would do our giveaways or have our events, we would have the RF on everything. So and Frank was sort of the one who came up with this idea. We sat down one day and we said, hey, why don't we just start calling ourselves RF Injury Law rather than Resigliano and Filippe? It's just a lot easier to remember. And around the same time, I went to a marketing seminar, a legal marketing seminar, and they were talking about the fact that way back in the day, the names of the partners would be on a firm because they were local, people knew them, you would recognize the name, but it's sort of something of the past. And more firms are starting to come up with, different variations of that other than just the names of the partner. You'll see firms called, Trauma Law or the something group. And I really think that that's the wave of the future. And I think it's a lot easier to market yourself that way. So that's what we decided to do. Plus, if you take on other partners, you don't necessarily have to continue to change the name of the firm,
Right.
which was also a benefit. So we just felt that marketing ourselves and branding ourselves as RF Injury Law rather than Resigliano and Filipe was so much easier for people to remember. And I definitely think that it's worked. I think that people, when I tell them I'm with RF Injury Law, I think it's a lot easier for them to remember, for them to register, and it definitely helps with branding. I think developing a logo is really important. And then putting it on everything, your website, your social media, your giveaways, any signs that you use at events, because it starts to become recognizable, like any good logo. So I'm a big proponent of doing that. And I think getting away from the days where all the names of the partners are on a firm, I think is the wave of the future.
Well, it makes total sense to me.
Mm.
All right, crew, we're ready to open up the floor for Q&A. If you have any questions for Bill and I, we're happy to answer them. And if we get them after this webinar, we'll email you a response back. So I've got 3 wonderful producers in the Advocate Capital studio today, 3 ladies, Amanda, Sarah, and Liz, and they're going to let me know if we get any questions if I miss them. But I'll go ahead and continue on. Bill, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure to learn from you. If folks who are watching want to get in contact with you, whether to learn more about marketing, perhaps work together, is it okay if they give you a call or email you?
Absolutely.
Okay. My team is telling me we do have a question. Okay, the question is, do you have any full-time marketing staff or is it all attorneys?
We have always, so probably the last 5 years, we have had some different variations of a marketing staff. We have had a marketing director and we have also had an outside vendor. I highly suggest, now it's very difficult to find the right person or the right firm. You have to really be careful and really vet them. But I really think you have to have somebody who specializes in marketing and business development do it, because it really, these days, with the market the way it is, I really think it's a full-time job. I think it's almost impossible for any one person who's doing other things in the firm, whether it's paralegal work or legal work, to do it. I actually enjoy doing it, but I could not do my job as an attorney and also do the marketing full time. So I think it's very vital, if you have the resources and the budget to do it, I think you have to have either an in-house marketing director or an outside vendor that handles all of this for you. And if you do use an outside vendor, I highly suggest that at least once a month, you meet with them to go over the analytics, to find out what's working, to make sure that they're on the right path and doing all the things that you expect them to do, and making sure that they're getting results. The idea that you're going to give it to them and they're going to run with it and you're going to get lots of cases come in, I think that's a misnomer. I think you have to meet with them and sort of be the CEO of the marketing if you get an outside vendor. And I think the same thing is true if you have an in-house marketing person. I think you have to meet with them periodically to see what they're doing and making sure that what they're doing works. And then the other thing I didn't say before, but I think it's worth mentioning, every intake we do, we'll ask the person, how did you find out about us? It's really important to track where the new cases are coming from. It could be our satellite office, Lawmobile, direct a referral from a former client, another lawyer. It's really, really important to keep track of where the business is coming from. And we keep stats on that every month. Every month we know how many cases we brought in and where those referral sources are from. So all of that's really, really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that idea, Bill. And that's something that we do at Advocate as well. At the end of the year, we look at where our new business came from, and we can, that's part of how we measure, and we say, okay, this isn't really effective for us. Let's put more money towards this,
Right.
and build that into the marketing budget. So that makes perfect sense to me. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to learn more about Advocate Capital, you can visit advocatecapital.com and also check out our really large video library there as well. Thanks so much, and thanks again, Bill. Have a great day.
Well, thank you. You too.